Hey everybody, I hope you are doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. I'm here to do a little check-in today. I'm going to switch it up for you all today. It is a tarot political reading for you, but I was led to some major arcana based on some events that are happening right now. And I was like, Spirit was just giving me these contrasts between, well, you know, this is like this energy and this is like that energy, and these two energies are coming together. So I was like, whoa, I get it. So I have a few topics I want to go over with you all today, and I've got some contrasting, calling it sort of the quote unquote battle of the major arcana in some political situations we've got going on. It'll serve a couple of purposes. Number one, you know tarot. If you know me, if you're here for the first time, welcome. I hope you like what you see, and please hit that like and subscribe button. But tarot is my jam, and the cards are amazing. There are so many incredible readings here on YouTube and elsewhere who are able to utilize the tarot as an incredible, not just divination tool, but a tool to really show these archetypes that are represented in tarot to help us understand a lot of what is happening in our world today in politics and social situations, etc. All right. So again, never a shortage of things going on. We have got to keep our heads on the swivel at all times because things are developing like at rapid fire pace right now. But one thing, I want to start out today by saying, and one housekeeping thing, I also need to say thank you again, because I'm still recovering from, some kind of virus or whatever. No, still testing negative for COVID. Thank you. But I'm a little, some of my readings, my schedule got a little wacky. So thank you so much to all of you who have been very, very kind and flexible in terms of working things out with me to get things rescheduled. So make sure you're not going to be sorry for that. It'll be worth your wait. But I just wanted to express my appreciation, and also always for my new subscribers. Thank you so much. Check out my memberships. I do special readings. I do discounted readings. I do special topics that I don't always do for the public at large. So we get into a little more magical stuff, a little more woo-woo stuff. With my members only. So there'll be a link for that below. It's very affordable. See what you think. If I'd love to have you. All right, moving on. So we got 5 areas that I want to cover today, and I've got 5 Battle of the Major Arcana pairs laid out here in front of me that I'm going to show you that the spirit guides gave me today. We're going to start out today with Dr. Fauci. That man, I didn't even realize how much I missed him, you all, until I saw him at those congressional hearings yesterday. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene showed up as we knew she would. She showed up and acted a complete ass for entertainment purposes only. Her thing with these poster boards, she went way, and even some of the hardliners shut her down when she showed the images of the euthanized dogs. Like, it's like, lady, you are there. There's just, I would not be surprised if she just showed up one day, butt naked, just to make a point, right? I mean, it's like there's no place she will not go to be completely ridiculous. But this is about Dr. Fauci. And when she said she refused to call him doctor, but he was doing good to be called Mr., basically, it was just so great to see that fire still in this 83-year-old man who has had actual and convincing enough death threats that this man now has to have, Dr. Fauci has to have protection. He and his family have to have protection. That his role during the COVID pandemic, he's out here scrambling like so many world leaders in the medical, professions were trying to wrap their heads. We all know, we don't even need to go back to that, but we remember how chaotic that was, and just trying to get information and give it out in some logistical manner. I mean, it was unbelievable the pressure that this man was under. So it was just great to see him not only still there, but still sort of with that wit about him. He was very unflappable when it came to Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. It was just really good to see him again. But so when I looked at that, some of the clips from yesterday, I didn't watch the whole hearing, but the clips. So I chose there the Hierophant versus Justice, but Justice in its in its uneven form. So like justice reversed, basically. Dr. Fauci being a representative of the Hierophant being the energy of someone who is learned, someone who is knowledgeable, someone to whom the masses would look to be able to trust, to be able to get, good information, to understand and to be able to respect his opinion, that he was honest in saying that were there things he'd do differently? Sure. Were there mistakes made? Yes. How could there not have been, given the scrambling that was being done? And then we have justice reversed with representing Marjorie, who was sitting there as a member of this oversight committee. Why and how she is still on there, I do not know. But the idea that when you are operating in justice in its good aspect, in its more in its intended aspect, it is about finding the win-win. It is about the ability to see two sides of a situation and to bring justice and equanimity and fairness to an issue. And Marjorie was completely turned it completely on its head. If you ever wanted to understand when justice is off kilter, and also justice was ruled by Venus. Sometimes when justice gets a little out of hand, so for those of you who read, and if justice is coming up in a kind of funky way, or in a way that your situation you're struggling in, it is sometimes because you lose sight of your own principles in a situation. And that's what Marjorie's done. She's so far up Trump's butt, and not just Trump, but she's so far up MAGA's butt, like anything that distinguishes her as being as far extreme as possible, right? As far, talking about the threats to democracy and America, tilting on the brink of autocracy or authoritarianism. That's what she's doing. It is the complete opposite of what the notion of justice is intended for. But Dr. Fauci did not blink, and he stood. I love the representation there, because he was sort of that, not necessarily a Hindu or Buddhist figure, but he just held his center. He knew his facts. He knew who he was. He has not changed, and he held it down. So that was an incredible moment for me, you all. I would love to hear what you thought about how that went yesterday. And of course, it was a complete waste of time. What did they even do it for? Again, it was another dog and pony show to try and appease the MAGA base. There was what's going to come out of that hearing? What's going to be done? Other than the fact that someone like Dr. Fauci and his family's lives have been turned over, or turned upside down, and there are continued threats. It continues to highlight or shine another spotlight on him that he does not need, right? Okay, so moving on. Next thing, woke up to the news that today, on Tuesday, President Biden, is going to sign an executive order, I do believe, regarding on the border issue, regarding asylum policies, right? Now, we know that we had a border deal in place. Donald Trump jumped up, put the bug in his ear to his MAGA people and his congressional, dog and ponies, to say, look, we can't let that go through. I need that as an issue to help me during my campaign, right? So we can't let Biden get a win on the border. They jumped up, nixed the deal for absolutely no good reason. Deal did not go through. Joe Biden spent the last however many months trying to figure out, okay, where do I go with this? Because clearly the border is, and immigration is a crucial issue during the upcoming election. People on both sides of the aisle and Americans at large have very strong feelings about that. So he's like, I got to do something. So he's going to sign that order. Now, what's going to happen legislatively, perhaps behind that, or objections to that? We know that's not a done deal. But the fact that Joe Biden is like, look, he understands this is not checkers, this is chess, and he is a very, very astute politician. He understands he's spent a lifetime doing this, so he knew that before the election something had to be done on the border. Clearly it wasn't going to happen in Congress. So now he's going to sign this executive action regarding, I think it's limiting 2,500, but there may even be less than that. Apparently, as it relates to certain areas of the border, numbers have gone way down recently, but still, Biden had to get something out there to give messaging to the American people that he is aware of this issue, he is tackling this issue, and therefore that's what he is doing now with this executive order that he's going to sign. So I have in the Battle of the Tarot, the Emperor and the Wheel of Fortune, because this for me is the Wheel of Fortune is representing the congressional leaders just going in a loop. Just going in a loop, coming and going, coming and going, coming and going as it relates to the immigration policy. They know for a fact that there were measures put in place, valid, viable measures that were put in place to mitigate those issues on the border. And simply on the word of Donald Trump, they turned everything on its ear, impacting not only lives. We remember how many, seeing those images of people dying trying to cross the border. I mean, impacting people's actual lives, children, etc., women and children. So there they go. And this is karma also. Wheel of Fortune is karma, right? Karma. And the wheel of karma. And as things turn, as things happen, as events transpire, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? There's the idea that, from a universal law principle, you reap what you sow. And so these congressional leaders who had every means available to them to implement solid and viable immigration policies and turn their backs on it by virtue of, 45 wannabe 47 decision that this could not be done because he wanted to be able to take that win and wanted to be able to make that jab against Joe Biden. Joe Biden stepped up as the emperor ruled by Aries Mars. This is a card of leadership. In a more negative connotation, I get this card a lot of times when I'm reading on Donald Trump, because the emperor can be so forceful in its singular view that it will override, as an archetypal energy, it will override what others are saying. You'd be, shh, listen to me, I'm the boss, I know what I'm talking about kind of energy, right? So that's Trump with his MAGA base. But in this case, when the emperor is operating truly as a visionary and as a leader and as someone who can be trusted, as the divine masculine, as someone who can oversee and very much as it relates to a governmental figure. This is what Joe Biden is doing in this moment. He stepped up and said, okay, I am president of the United States of America. I can sign an executive action. I know how this is done. It wasn't my choice to do it this way. I would have loved to have the support of Congress and have it go through a different way. But if that's not how we're going to do it, then it's still going to get done. You go, Joe Biden. Let's see what happens. And again, we know that it's going to get challenged. This is not the end of it, but at the very least, again, going into this emperor energy, he took the lead, he took charge, he decided, and he's leaving them to continue to accumulate their karma, congressional leaders in quotes. But he has put something forth, and so that he can demonstrate while he's on the campaign trail leading into the November election. Listen, this is what I've done. This is what I believe. This is what we saw needing to happen, and I answered the call to that. All right, so let's see what happens next. Next thing, Netanyahu is in trouble with a capital T. We've known this from that. That's, you're like, Fefe, that's no news flash, right? I get it. But in the Battle of our Tarot, Spirit was giving me the tower vibes all day long around BB. This man is, it just can't end well, no matter what. Now he's got two major people on his, supposedly his team, that are saying, both of them are saying, and they're in different ways. You got Benny Gantz on the one hand, and then we've got Yoav, I hope I'm saying his name right, Yoav Gallant on the other hand. Now, Gallant is off the charts. They're calling him the Rambo of the defense cabinet. He's way far right. He just wants to go blow it all up, do it all, whatever. And Gallant, that the head of the National Unity Party, I believe it's called, right? Yeah, National Unity Party. So Benny Gantz is saying, listen, if you don't take Biden's advice, because Biden has once again stepped in and said, listen, Hamas, as it is, it no longer represents an existential, if I can get my words right, existential threat to Israel, right, as a terrorist organization. Enough, they've been decimated enough that it is really, really, really time. It's hard to argue against entering into some sort of ceasefire arrangement. Point blank, period. Biden put it all on the line, put it on the table. So now Netanyahu is like, you got Gallant over there like, no how, no way. He's defying the ICC, saying, I dare you to accuse us of high crimes. We're doing what we got to do to protect the state. So he's off on one end, and he's staring Netanyahu down, saying, don't you dare budge, don't you back down, or else you're gonna have a problem with me, buddy, and my folks over here. And then you've got Benny Gantz on the other hand saying, well, you know what? This is way, way, way too much. We've got to find some other means. A ceasefire deal is really the way to go. And so he too is saying, I can't sit here and participate in this any longer. So we've got the tower. Things are bursting apart at the seams. Netanyahu is in deep, deep, deep trouble, you all. I've seen other readers and predictions being made about his demise, about there being another election, and he's going to be thrown out of there. Of course, this war is his only, the Gaza war, and now, going into, well, whatever, we're not going to go into that, the whole crossing the red line into Rafah, etc. But he's not doing what he knows or what he is hearing from the international community, including Israel's staunchest allies like the United States. And he's spitting right back in. He's been spitting in Biden's face and basically saying, I hear you, but I don't hear you. I can't hear you. So now we have judgment ruled by Pluto. And Pluto is about a reckoning. Pluto is about, it brings transformational energy, and it says, listen, but it is also energy from a divine perspective. And so I think what's happening is Netanyahu is going to have, it's going to disintegrate. His leadership is disintegrating right in front of him. His days are numbered. And the way that comes about, if that is prompted by, sometimes when things fall apart, it prompts this sort of deep transformation and reemergence that is divinely inspired. I do think that there's talk, I understand now, of, I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology, so forgive me ahead of time, but there's something when younger Israelis are ultra orthodox, so that typically, if somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is typically when you are ultra orthodox, it serves as sort of an exemption from military service because there is that conflict in your belief, right? Now, from what I understand, due to the duration of the war, that Netanyahu is starting to look at tapping some of these young ultra orthodox Jews to try and induct them or require them to be inducted into the military. And that is going to cause a ruckus. So again, this tower and this judgment energy around Netanyahu, he is out of there. I do see, Spirit is leading me. I'm sorry, I haven't done this on some of the others, but this one is, they're leading me. I do want to see is, because Benny Gantz has been, Gallant aside, we already know where he is, but I don't think that's where the majority of the Israeli people want to go. They don't want to go that far right extreme. They're not a bunch of Rambo followers. Benny Gantz may be a little too, he may need to tighten it up and come a little more central or tighten it up, to satisfy, in his policy positions to be more inclusive of both, both ideas, both the right and the left. But he comes across as, I think, a little more, again, National Unity Party. I think that in and of itself is a draw for him. But I want to see, is Gantz going to separate from Netanyahu? Is he in fact going to leave his defense cabinet? Five of Pentacles. Yeah, that's a sign of perhaps going off on his own. It's a beautiful image, by the way. I want to share that with you. Five of Pentacles. So Benny Gantz is at his wit's end with that. Five of Pentacles is where you do feel like either you've been pushed out or you have left on your own accord. But either way, you are not fitting in. You are not fitting in with that situation. Is Benny Gantz going to leave? Nine of Swords. He's really stressed about it. He doesn't want to, because the fact of the matter is, should he leave, his party in and of itself doesn't have enough at this time, enough oomph to really be able to then take over, you know? Netanyahu still has that ruling power. So it's really a last resort, and it's why he has tried to, you know, hang in there and figure out how he can be of some influence up until now. And I've got the Lovers. Hasn't been decided yet. He's really still trying. He's hoping that the threat of doing so is going to somehow sway Netanyahu, that Netanyahu will realize that the stakes for him to have his cabinet, to have these strong figures disintegrate, you know, because he still needs that coalition, just as in the case of, say, a Donald Trump. How much could Trump have accomplished by himself were it not for the Congress, you know, congressional leaders, were it not for the Jim Jordans and the Mike Johnsons and the J.D. Vances, etc., because all the talking mouthpieces of the world, of the congressional leaders around him. So, yeah, Netanyahu needs his people to in order to continue to do what he's doing. Benny Gantz is not exactly ready to walk away just yet. The Hangman, yeah, he's not ready. Between the Lovers and the Hangman, you all, I don't see him. He's not ready to do it yet. Spirit's saying it's not ruled out, but it's not imminent. I think he's going to, right now, it's more of a threat than it is him being actually ready to walk away from Netanyahu and that defense ministry. Interesting. Excuse me. I'm so sorry for that. I am still recovering, you all. My first cough. I was doing good. All right, Spirit is like, okay, Fefe, then wrap it up. All right, I've got two more quick ones then for you all. Senate races. We know that, you know, aside from, we want, you know, Biden's going to retake the presidency. We're calling it into existence, so it shall be. We also need control of the Senate, and it has been that thing is razor thin. With some of those resignations, it got even thinner for the GOP. The leadership got even thinner. So now we have two interesting developments. One, of course, you've heard about Larry Hogan out of Maryland, running for the Senate out of Maryland. I just said that. But what's interesting, he's a former governor, was governor of Maryland for 8 years. Maryland being a solidly blue state, he's a Republican. I'm not familiar enough with Maryland politics to understand how that even happened. But what I did find really interesting, and one of these days I'm going to get technical enough to be able to impose pictures on my screen to show you, but if you Google Larry Hogan Pride Parade on June 1st, I think it was, he's out there with the rainbow flower lei on. He's got his t-shirt on. He's hugging up with the people at a pride event, blah, blah. Come to find out, when I looked further into him, he didn't do any of that. 8 years that he was the governor of the state of Maryland, all of the laws and policies and different things that were put in place to help the LGBTQ community, he did not even sign most of them. And then he went out and said, well, me not signing was the same as me supporting, because either way they went into law. You know, they took effect, right? I didn't stand against it. He did not participate in any pride events. He was not an outspoken advocate. He was not about DEI. He was a solid Republican leader, but he also came across as pretty centrist and moderate in his approach. So when he opened his mouth and had the nerve to say, in the wake of the Trump verdict, the guilty verdict out of New York in the hush money trial, well, we have to respect the rule of law, that no one is above the law. And Lara Trump lost her ever loving mind and was like, he is canceled. He's out of here. He has, and other MAGA GOP leaders are like, that's it for him. He just messed up the election. He's out of here. But now they're starting to circle that back around, because they realize, hey, this Senate thing is tight. And so we can probably get Larry in check a little bit later, but right now we need him. He is running against Angela also Brooks, who, while she has been trailing Hogan in the polls, and she certainly does not have, I think she's a county executive or something, solid candidate, and she's done well in the primaries. But also Brooks is not, she doesn't have the money and the same political cachet that Larry Hogan has. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, and so I think some of the GOP elite have been kind of pulling Lara Trump in and saying, Lara, watch your language there, because ultimately, whether you like this guy or not, we know you're all about Daddy Trump, but at the end of the day, we need this guy in this seat. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. The face-off that I have for that situation between Lara Trump and Larry Hogan, she trying to cancel him, and he's like, I'm out here changing my face. I will dance at the LGBTQ parades. I will do whatever it takes to help get the good people of Maryland to elect me to Congress, right? So he's out here pretending to be the magician. The magician is just that. Magician is ruled by Mercury. The magician is an interesting energy because it is capable of assessing whatever is necessary around it in order to manifest or have take place what it needs. In a political context, and looking at Hogan, that seems to be what he's doing. He recognizes that he needs to once again try to work his magic in a solidly blue state in order to be, to get into the Senate as a, and keep those numbers on the side of the GOP. So he's out here dancing and, yeah, I'm your friend, I'm your guy, never had a problem with you, blah, 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 blah. That's really interesting. On the other hand, we have Lara Trump, I got her here, Spirit gave me the hangman for her, because she doesn't know her up from down right now. She really doesn't. She clearly has no business being co-chair of a national political organization such as the RNC, such as that is, even if we still have a Republican Party, but that's another talk for another day. But the bottom line is, she doesn't know her up from down, and she's out of her depth. She's out of her field. She spoke out of turn, and now she's being hung up. She's being told basically and hung out and said, shush your mouth. You got to come at this a different way, because no matter what, we need this guy to work his magic. We need this guy to utilize all of his resources, all of his money, all of his charm, all of his connections in the state of Maryland and elsewhere to win this election. We need him in that seat. So we need you to hold steady. Shush it. Go sit down somewhere. All right. And finally, Bob Menendez out of New Jersey. So he's jumped up and decided that now he wants to, or has he already, or he is about to run for election back to the Senate as an independent. All right. Now he's still undergoing that trial, those gold bars and et cetera, all these dealings with Egypt and whatnot. But his wife, Nadine, this goes into this whole thing that we're seeing play out in recent months about these political or heavy leaders. We've got we've got Alito and the flag issue with his wife. Well, that was my wife. I got nothing to do with it. I can't control it. We got Clarence Thomas. That was my wife. She does what she does. I can't control it. Now we have Nadine, Bob Menendez's wife, who most reports are saying she was the architect behind a lot of these deals that were being struck. She basically seduced him, met him in 2020 at a IHOP. Check my facts. But yeah, met him at a IHOP. Wouldn't have even expect. Okay. Anyway, met him at a IHOP. Seduced him, things happen one way or another. Look up some pictures of Nadine. There was a shot of her in 2022. They were going to some state's dinner at the White House for Greece. Oh, girl stood, now he's 70, she's 57, I do believe. She showed up in this little 57, well, I guess 55 then, excuse me, short little mini dress. I'm almost there, Spirit. Work with me. Thank you. Short little mini dress, fringe on it, V-neck down to here, tatas out to there, like working it, right? And that was the nature of their relationship. she seduced him. And he, in turn, bought into it. She was really under dire financial straits. She promised people in her connections in Egypt and elsewhere, listen, this is my boyfriend. He can help you get these deals. And sure enough, he got sucked into it. Does that mean, so he's being cast in the trial as this sort of unwitting husband, so in love with his wife that he just wanted to please her. And the fact that she went down this dark path, he just kind of, trailed behind her. It ain't gonna work, you all. But interestingly enough, he did get enough votes to be able to enter on the ballot as an independent. He only needed 800, got something like 2,500. Not sure how they certified those signatures. Let's assume that they're real. But that's going to be interesting to see how that works. But again, this battle of the tarot, I've got the devil, seduction, temptation, going against your own interests when you know better, feeling tied to something because you will do whatever it takes to be loved, to be accepted, to be admired. Some of the text messages and voicemails that have been a part of the public record in their trial, it's straight out of a Lifetime movie, you all. Hey, Big Daddy, make sure you keep your zipper zipped on the Senate floor because I didn't like the way she was looking at you. I don't know who she was, but I didn't like the way she was looking at you when you were on the set. And she was all over you, one of the texts said. She was all over you on the Senate floor. Make sure you keep your zipper up, And what can I do for you, my love, 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 love? Like straight out of a Lifetime movie. Contrasted with the Lovers. The Lovers being the highest expression of, in its highest form, ruled by Gemini twins, but being where the highest expression of two souls coming together for a higher purpose, for the good of one another, for the betterment of one another, to help one another's souls grow, right? That ain't what happened here, right? This is such a classic example of wanting or needing. She appealed apparently so much to Bob Menendez's ego with the whole blowing him up, Big Daddy this, Big Daddy that. And then even in one of the texts that she's working these deals overseas, everything here is for entertainment purposes only. But one of the guys says to her, well, what are you doing about Grandpa? So the idea that she entered this relationship, who am I to say, and the guides are checking me on that. I don't mean to come off as judgmental myself. Who am I to say what her real dynamic is with him and whether or not they honestly and truly really love one another? But in terms of what's landed them both as, in trials and has imperiled their future, is this notion that it speaks to seduction. It speaks to the ego. It speaks to when we have a burning need to appear a certain way, to be wanted, to belong, and when in fact, when you are in union with someone, it is meant to serve a higher and greater purpose that grows your soul, not corrupt it. All right. That's it, you all. I think I need to shush before I go into another coughing spell. Thank you again. I'm going to get on here. Hopefully, I'm getting a little better day by day. So I'm going to do something around the moon. When is it coming? On the 9th? I got to check my dates. But I'll check back in on a more spiritual reading for you all real soon, okay? All right. Take really good care. I'll talk to you soon.